The sun rose over the lush valleys of Tibet, casting golden rays on the crisp morning air as two monks, Brother Tenzin and Brother Kavi, embarked on their journey to the sacred monastery on the nearby mountain. They had been friends and companions for years, having trained in the same temple under the guidance of their wise master. Their journey was one of purpose, both to seek enlightenment and to practice the values they held dear. As they made their way along the winding path, they engaged in deep discussions about the teachings of the Buddha, the nature of impermanence, and the importance of compassion. Their conversations were rich with insight and learning, yet on this day, their philosophical ideals would be put to the test in a way neither of them had anticipated. After hours of walking, they came upon a swollen river that rushed with turbulent waters. They scanned the flowing current, evaluating whether it was safe to cross. It was then that they spotted a young woman, stranded on the banks of the river, fear etched across her beautiful face. "Please, kind monks," she called, desperation lacing her voice. "I need to cross this river. The other side holds my family and my home. Will you help me?" Brother Tenzin stepped forward without hesitation. "Of course, we will help you," he said, his compassionate heart leading the way. He knelt down, allowing her to climb onto his shoulders, and he carefully stepped into the roaring river. He focused on the strength of his meditation, grounding himself as the current rushed against him. With each careful step, he maintained his balance, steady and resolute. Brother Kavi stood on the riverbank, filled with a tumult of emotions. He felt a surge of anger and confusion watching his friend. "How could you? You have touched a woman," he shouted, his voice filled with discontent. "The teachings we have followed condemn such actions. You are no longer a monk." Tenzin paused in the water, looking back at Kavi. He regarded his friend with calm eyes. "Brother, I have carried her across the river and put her down on the other side. You, on the other hand, have carried your anger and judgment with you all this time," he replied gently, aware that Kavi's reaction stemmed from a rigid interpretation of their teachings. Kavi's face flushed with frustration. "But the rules, our vows, they mean something. You cannot just disregard our commitment." As Tenzin safely helped the woman down onto the dry ground, she looked back with gratitude. "Thank you, kind monk. You have saved me," she said, her eyes shining with appreciation. Once Tenzin returned to the riverbank, Kavi could barely contain his indignation. They resumed their journey, yet Kavi was still consumed with thoughts of his friend's actions. "You should feel ashamed, Tenzin. You have broken your vow," he insisted. Tenzin remained calm, continuing to walk beside Kavi. "Tell me, my friend, what good does your anger do? What has it brought you other than division in your heart?" Kavi grumbled under his breath, failing to grasp Tenzin's perspective. "You think you can just cast aside your duties for the sake of compassion?" he rebutted. Blind to Tenzin's wisdom, Kavi continued to dwell in his discomfort. The two monks journeyed on in silence, the weight of their disagreement heavy in the air between them. Yet as they climbed higher up the mountain, the air became thinner, their progress more demanding, and with it came an unexpected opportunity for self-reflection. Days turned into weeks, and Kavi found himself restless and burdened with negative emotions. He struggled to perform his daily meditations, unable to find clarity or tranquility. Meanwhile, Tenzin continued to embody the teachings they were trained in, radiating peace and understanding. One day, while resting at a secluded spot on the mountainside, Kavi watched as Tenzin meditated beneath a towering tree, the gentle breeze caressing his peaceful face. Kavi was blinded by his rigid adherence to principles, failing to see the greater teachings of love and compassion in Tenzin's actions. "Why do you meditate so? You should be apologetic for what you've done," Kavi finally remarked, unable to suppress his feelings any longer. "How can you be at peace with your actions?" Tenzin opened his eyes slowly, focusing on Kavi. "Brother, I acknowledge the principle of detachment, but it must come from understanding rather than resentment. Compassion does not negate discipline, it enhances it." He inhaled deeply. "When we cling too tightly to rules, we forget the spirit of those rules. To become enlightened is to understand both our actions and their intentions." Kavi shook his head, still entrenched in his mindset. "So you think you can just disregard your vows? Where does that leave us?" "Where it leaves us is learning," Tenzin replied serenely. "Every action has its roots in intention. You see a woman, and you see the act of touching a woman. I saw a person in need, and I chose compassion. Tell me, isn't understanding one another more important than rigidly following rules? As the sun began to set, casting a warm orange glow over the mountains, Kavi turned his gaze from Tenzin to the horizon. The vibrant colors mixed with his turbulent thoughts, beginning to stir a sense of doubt within him. Perhaps his friend had insight he was previously blind to. We've walked this journey together as brothers, yet I feel we are divided, Kavi admitted, his voice softened by the evening's calm. Perhaps I have misunderstood. Tenzin smiled warmly. Understanding cannot flourish in fear, nor can it dwell in anger. You have this wonderful potential within you, Kavi. Do not let the chains of your rigidity hinder your journey toward enlightenment. As they continued discussing the teachings of the Buddha well into the night, Kavi began to comprehend that true enlightenment wasn't merely about adhering to rules. It was about recognizing the wisdom within them while remaining compassionate towards all beings. He realized that rigid adherence to doctrine without adaptability could limit his growth. Recognizing his own limitations became a profound moment of personal enlightenment. He saw Tenzin not merely as a friend but as a teacher. In the journey of life, Kavi took a large step forward, shedding layers of preconceived notions that had tied him down for so long. With each passing day, Kavi chose to let go of his anger. He learned to appreciate the richness of compassion in action instead of viewing it through the constraints of judgment. He began to understand Tenzin's wisdom, embracing the notion that each moment offers a choice, to react with love or to cling tightly to fear. As they reached the monastery, the two monks stood side by side, humbled by the profound transformation within themselves. They had journeyed to seek knowledge, yet what they found was deeper than enlightenment. It was the beauty of understanding and the power of compassion. As the monks arrived at the gates of their sacred space, Kavi leaned towards Tenzin and said, "I see now. It is not in the acts themselves, but in the love we place in our actions. To be a monk is to love. I have so much to learn." With a gentle nod, Tenzin added, "And your journey has only just begun. Embrace the teachings, but do not let them bind you. Instead, let them free you to love unconditionally." In closing, we see how the story of Tenzin and Kavi offers us a vital lesson about the nature of rules in our pursuit of wisdom. Sometimes we may cling so tightly to our perceptions and protocols that we forget the heart of what drives us toward enlightenment. Let this story encourage us to recognize that true wisdom lies not only in unwavering discipline but in understanding, compassion, and the beauty of each moment we encounter. Our willingness to adapt, learn from one another, and embrace the richness of human experience can illuminate the path to deeper understanding. For all is connected in the expansive tapestry of life.